As I held the eviction notice, a wave of unease washed over me, my stomach churning with anxiety. The rent had been due for weeks, and I found myself with nothing to offer. My income scarcely stretched to cover the cost of groceries, much less the exorbitant rent of the apartment I held onto. I had exhausted every avenue, borrowing from friends, maxing out credit cards, and parting with all my possessions of worth. All avenues had been exhausted. Mr. Langston, my landlord, had remained so until this moment. He wasn't an elderly oddball, not precisely. In his late 40s, he exudes wealth and sophistication, always impeccably attired. He moved with an air of assurance, a presence that unmistakably conveyed his ability to attain his desires. As he rapped on my door that evening, an unsettling certainty washed over me. This visit was far from a casual conversation. "You know why I'm here," he said, leaning against the doorframe. His voice carried a serene quality, yet an unmistakable warning lingered beneath the surface. I took a deep breath. "All I require is a bit more time. Time is not on your side." His gaze lingered on me, measured and intentional, yet perhaps in an unexpected offer that could alter my situation. My breath was momentarily suspended. "Could you clarify what you mean?" He entered the room, an unwelcome presence, and gently shut the door behind him. "I believe you are aware." Heat flooded my cheeks. He must be joking. I was not the type of girl who fit that mold. Yet in the grip of desperation, individuals found themselves compelled to act in ways they had never envisioned. I began to speak, but he interrupted me. "Consider it for a moment. No attachments. In a single night, your debt vanishes into thin air." He discreetly placed a business card on my counter. "Alternatively, you may find yourself departing by the week's conclusion." The door closed firmly behind him, leaving me without a chance to reply. I stood there, heart racing, gazing at the card as if it could ignite at any moment. The ensuing days unfolded in a haze of tension. I scoured for swift employment, reached out to former acquaintances, and even contemplated contacting my ex, only to be reminded of the betrayal that shattered me. I would not stoop to pleading. A friend with a hint of humor proposed the idea of sugar daddy websites. I chuckled at the moment. Yet later, I caught myself lost in a sea of profiles, where curiosity intertwined with a twinge of shame. Was it truly so distinct from what Carter had proposed? The notion repulsed me, yet the dread of facing homelessness loomed even larger. I envisioned the act of gathering my belongings, finding solace in the confines of my car, grappling with the sheer will to endure. Doubt lingered in my mind, questioning whether I possessed the strength for such a challenge. Then a subsequent knock echoed through my door. My heart raced with a sudden jolt. Carter. Yet he found himself in the company of others. Two men loomed beside him, both statuesque and impeccably attired, radiating an aura of authority. There was an unmistakable air of danger surrounding them. "I can tell you've been pondering," Carter remarked with a smooth cadence. "Allow me to simplify things for you. Settle your rent and leave with some additional funds in hand. Simply affirm it." I ought to have forcefully closed the door. I ought to have shouted at them to go away. Rather, I found myself in a moment of hesitation. My mouth was parched as I gazed at them. Carter's offer had already stirred a sense of unease within me, but now with the gaze of these two strangers upon me, the gravity of the situation bore down even more heavily. They weren't compelling me, not in a direct manner yet. The silent expectation hung heavily in the atmosphere. I don't know. I murmured, my voice scarcely rising above a whisper. Carter wore a smile that suggested he had already claimed victory. "Feel free to deliberate, yet know that this opportunity will not present itself again." They departed, and I remained in quietude, my thoughts whirling. Though I ought to have been repulsed, a sly, insidious fragment of my mind entertained the thought, what distinguishes this from pursuing a relationship with a man solely for his wealth? My former partner had crossed lines far beyond imagination, engaging in deceitful acts, fabricating affection, all while sharing intimacy with another. This would certainly embody honesty. That night I found myself wide awake, revisiting each and every reason that urged me to refrain from taking that step. My pride, my dignity, my self-worth. Yet as I pondered the looming threat of eviction, the image of struggling on the streets surfaced a haunting vision of my life unraveling before my eyes. Which was more devastating, the act of compromising my values for survival or the loss of everything I held dear. As dawn broke, clarity enveloped me. As soon as I dialed Carter's number, he answered without hesitation, as if he had been waiting for my call. It was a wise decision, he remarked. I convinced myself that I could let go. It was merely a transaction devoid of any deeper significance. Yet, as I crossed the threshold into the polished hotel room, uncertainty began to seep in. The men stood in anticipation, Carter and the two others, their gazes imbued with an enigmatic emotion I struggled to identify. I endeavored to keep in mind the financial reward, the sense of relief that would inevitably follow. Yet, as Carter placed a glass of wine in my hand, his fingers lightly grazing against mine, an exhilarating shiver coursed through me. "You'll find greater it would be easier if I tried not to overthink," he remarked. His voice was smooth and practiced, while the morning light filtered through the hotel curtains, yet it did nothing to alleviate the pit in my stomach. I gazed at the ceiling, my body motionless, my thoughts dulled. The room stood silent and vacant, a testament to the hours that had passed since Carter and his friends had departed. A heavy envelope rested on the nightstand bulging with cash. I extended my hand, fingers quivering with anticipation. The rent was not only covered, but exceeded expectations. For a fleeting moment, I found the ability to breathe. Yet, as I clutched the money, a surge of nausea washed over me. The deed was accomplished. It was irreversible. I stood beneath the cascading water, my hands working fervently to cleanse my skin, yet the sensation lingered, refusing to be rinsed away. I reassured myself that I ought to feel strong, commanding. Instead, I experienced a profound emptiness. The vibration of my phone broke the silence. A note from Carter. "I trust you enjoyed yourself. We ought to repeat this experience." I let the phone slip from my grasp as if it had seared my skin. Was that truly all I had become? Is it a transaction? Is it a service? The mere thought sent a shiver through my stomach. Yet just as I began to ponder it, another message appeared. A revelation I never anticipated. "Greetings. I have been pondering your presence." It came from my former partner. A chilling laugh slipped from my lips. Of all the moments for him to resurface, why this one? A heavy sense of guilt enveloped me. He had betrayed trust, yet I found myself questioning if I had risen above that darkness. At the very least, he had deceived me. I stepped into this willingly. I turned a blind eye to the message, yet the past refused to remain hidden. In the days that followed, Carter made contact once more. It extends beyond him, one of his companions as well. They presented a greater sum additional evenings and deeper concealment. I firmly declared to myself no. I convinced myself that once was sufficient. Yet in that moment, Carter uttered a phrase that sent a shiver down my spine. "My wife has been inquiring. Exercise caution." The earth below me appeared to tremble. I had not even given her a thought. I had not considered the ramifications that extended beyond my own existence. At that moment, I found myself ensnared in a web far more chaotic than I had ever envisioned. I found myself uncertain if I would emerge unscathed. The weight of Carter's warning pressed down on my heart. His wife possessed an inkling of the truth. Perhaps not all, but certainly enough to raise an eyebrow. I reassured myself that it was not my concern. Yet beneath the surface, I was aware of the truth. Women of her kind rarely lingered in the shadows for too long. Days drifted by in a fog of discomfort. The incessant buzzing of my phone was unrelenting. Carter here, just touching base. His friends were extending further offers. Every message eroded the fragile justification I had constructed for my own sake. Endurance, nearly existing. Yet could that still hold if I continued to return? Then there was a knock at the door. This time it's not Carter. A lady. With a moment's pause I stood before the door, uncertainty gripping me. Yet the moment I laid eyes on her, recognition washed over me like a tide. Graceful and refined, yet beneath the surface, a simmering intensity flickers in her gaze. "You're not the first," she remarked, crossing the threshold uninvited. "And you shall not be the final one." Words failed me. She let a hefty envelope fall onto my counter, more substantial than the one Carter had left behind. Seize it and vanish. Or perhaps choose not to, and observe the consequences of my actions as I bring about his downfall. I ought to have seized it. One ought to have expressed gratitude, turned on their heel, and never cast a glance behind. Yet there was an undeniable quality in her confidence that caused me to hesitate. "What's the point of compensating me if you intend to ruin him regardless?" I inquired. Her smile graced her lips, yet it failed to illuminate her eyes. For the simple reason that I appreciate having choices, there's a certain thrill in observing the discomfort of men. In that moment, clarity washed over me. This was not a matter concerning my own self. This was a matter of power, concerning the concept of control, concerning the act of diminishing Carter to the same insignificance he had imposed upon her. For the first time since this began, I experienced an emotion beyond mere fear. "Do it?" I insisted, nudging the envelope toward him once more. "Let the truth come to light." Her smile blossomed. In that instant, it dawned on me that she had already begun. A week later, the scandal erupted. Carter's enterprise collapsed. His name was sullied and tarnished. A greater number of women stepped into the light. The idyllic existence he had meticulously crafted crumbled before his very eyes. I gathered my belongings and departed swiftly, ensuring he wouldn't have the chance to seek me out. I ought to have experienced a sense of liberation. It ought to have felt as though victory was mine. As I settled into my new apartment, distanced from the chaos, a notification illuminated my phone. A request for a message. The name evoked a sense of strangeness, yet the words resonated with familiarity. A new opportunity was knocking, tempting me once more. My finger lingered just above the screen. I had gained wisdom through experience, understood the destination of this path, and yet I chose not to erase it.